Hi students, today we are going to learn about grouping objects together and linking objects together, two of the main ways that we can attach geometry together and have it behave as one single object. And this is going to be really important to practice in order to set up our snowman scene for animation down the road. So there's two ways, well there's many ways as always, but the two ways we're going to focus on are called linking and grouping. And they're similar, but they share some distinct differences. And so the purpose of this exercise is going to give you the opportunity to, we're going to group these guys, we're going to show you what happens when you group, and then we're going to ungroup them, and then we're going to link them, and I'm going to show you the difference. You get a little bit more flexibility with linking than you do with grouping, and depending on what you want to do with your animation, you might use one over the other. Alright, so with that being said, the first thing that you're going to do with this scene, once you've made sure that you have your own copy in the V drive, is what I want you to do is to put the ball, so it's like it's resting in the torus, so it's like it's sitting in an inner tube, and then we'll put the teapot so it looks like it's balancing on the ball. Now, if I was the one doing this, I would grab the move tool real quick, and I put everybody at the origin. 0, 0, 0, we've done this many times, and I'm going to use the scene navigator to select the sphere since it's kind of hard to get. 0, 0, 0, enter, and then I'm going to grab the teapot, and I'm going to 0, 0, 0, and there you have it. Now, I'm using the left viewport for this just because I am going to move, oops, Control Z, make sure I've got that Y-axis selected there, up. I'm going to move the sphere up as well. Okay, so here's our absurd scene of a sphere, well, it's hovering over an inner tube with a teapot balanced on top of it. Great. Okay, so say in the future we wanted to set this scene up so that we could easily do a weird animation of the tube gliding across the floor with the sphere floating in it and the teapot balancing on it. As it stands now, if we were to move this in the X direction, we would not have either of these two objects following it. So we want to set it up so that if we move the ring, everything else is going to follow it. So quick way to do this is to do a quick selection of everything, get them all highlighted, go up to where it says group, and then say group, and then we can call it whatever we want. So here we have it. So now if you look over into the scene navigator, you'll see we have our group name and then our three objects underneath it. So let's see what that does. Notice now how when I hover over our group, you will see that now it selects all three objects as though they were one. So now if I want to animate in the X direction, when I grab the gizmo and I move it from side to side, all three objects travel together, which is fantastic. You guys might use this to group together the different geometrical elements that make up your snowman. For example, making sure that the eyes are attached to the head and the buttons are attached to the middle, etc., etc. Okay, so that's great. But what if, in addition to moving, having our tube glide across the floor, we wanted to make it look like our teapot was tipping forward? Well, as it stands right now, I can't really make that teapot rotate forward because everybody's locked together in the group. So this is an example of the shortcoming of the group. It sort of just locks everything together as one big thing, and it is very challenging, not impossible, but for this purposes of this class, you cannot really go in and edit any one of these independently. So if you want to animate one piece of this and still have it follow the tube, there's a way to sort of link these guys together so that they all follow the tube, but you still have the ability to independently edit maybe the rotation of the teapot. So let's take a look at that. So let's ungroup. We can just do that by going ungroup, and there's our three objects once again. So let's see here. We are going to look at our next option. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up to this button here, the select and link. And this is a very powerful thing up here. So the first object that you click, watch what happens, because see, we have our sphere, our teapot, and our torus all lined up together in basically the same level. Right now we can move them independently of each other. We have the link tool selected. So if I click on the teapot and then I drag to the sphere and let go, see what happened there? The teapot went beneath the sphere. Now if I do the same thing, if I click and drag the sphere and drag over the torus, I then link the sphere to the torus. And then I disable the link tool so things don't get crazy. And we can see that now we have what's known as a hierarchy. So that means that if we click at the object at the top of the hierarchy and we move it, our two other objects are going to follow along with it, but notice they're no longer selected. So they're just sort of along for the ride, which is awesome because then you can animate, say, the movement of the torus, and then independently of that, click the teapot, and maybe you want to make the teapot look like it's going wobbly up here, or maybe you want to, you know, make it look like it's pouring forward. And if I tilt my teapot forward and then I click back on the torus and I go to the move tool, so you can animate the individual parameters of each member of this hierarchy independent of one another, but whatever you do to the one above it is going to affect the one below. So if I move the teapot, notice these guys don't go with it. But if I go down here, why do you think that happens? Because even though the teapot is not physically touching these guys, it's still considered part of the hierarchy. So once again, if we move the sphere, what do you guys think is going to happen? I'm going to put this as a question in the lab packet. So pause the video now and take a moment to see what you think is going to happen. Okay, here we go. So if we move our sphere, there you have it. The teapot is going to follow it because it's below it in the hierarchy, but the torus is going to stay put. So I'm going to do a bunch of Control Z's to get everything back the way I had it originally. Cool. So in a situation where you have a group of geometry that you want to be able to move as one, but still have independent control over the individual elements within the collection here, a hierarchy using the link tool is going to be your best bet. Now we're going to unlink these so we can click on this and we can, oops, maybe you have to drag. It's been a while since I've done this. Another way to do it is just to drag it out of the group or drag it out of the hierarchy. So I want to take a look at what happens if you link them in the opposite direction. At this point, I'd like you to pause the video and tell me what you think would happen if we had started down here by clicking and dragging from the sphere and then click and drag from the sphere to the teapot. All right, here we go. Here to here, here to here. All right, so now we can take a look at our hierarchy and we can see that now it's backwards. Everything is dependent on the teapot. So if we move the teapot, everybody's going to follow. Likewise, if we move the torus, nobody's going to follow because it's at the bottom of the totem pole. So you can see here that it's important to make sure that as you decide on how you link objects together, that you think in the future about how you're going to want to move them. And this is going to apply to our snowman animation in a little bit. So that is an intro to hierarchies, and next we will work on applying some of this to our snowman scene. That's it.